Building collapses have become another source of embarrassment. And no one is more embarrassed than the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. At least 17 building collapses occurred in 2022 alone. And with every collapse, we look at engineers. This time, a collapsed fence in Wuse 2 took the lives of 2 people and injured 4 others. How much regulation is done? Is this a rainy season issue or a poor construction issue? And while we're here, why are the walls of many houses in Abuja wet and swollen during the rainy season? My guest helps us understand these issues and navigate where the fault lines are. Our focus on the nation's capital looks at the unfortunate fence collapse that occurred during the week in Wuse 2 and the FCT administration's attempt at ending these spates of collapsing buildings as the rains bear upon us. And as we do every week, we give you a major roundup of the stories from the nation's capital. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with a roundup of major stories from Nigeria's presidency.
Against the backdrop of the recent suspension of the Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner REC, Mr. Huduari, after a controversial and premature announcement of results, the Ministry of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, has stated that the responsibility to deal with the infraction rests solely with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The electoral body had reported the REC to the appointing authority for further action, particularly because it is not saddled with the powers to remove a REC who is an appointee of the president. Mr. Lai further maintains that the government's non-action is because the president has never intervened in the way INEC conducts its elections and consequently does not micromanage any institution of government. Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has responded to the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee, which is investigating the alleged sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil, valued at over $2.4 billion, and crude oil exports to global destinations from 2014 to date. Mr. Malami's position was made known in a letter to the committee, indicating that the ministry is trying to put together a comprehensive response. The committee chairman who read the letter, however, says it came a lot later than expected and that the committee will expect the Attorney General and Honorable Minister to provide the required response to also appear before the committee next Thursday. Nigeria's armed forces have neutralized 63 Boko Haram and Islamic State of West Africa terrorists between the beginning of March and 15th of April, and in the process liberated over 150 kidnapped victims in the course of their operations like Hadirin Daji, Hadin Kai, and Delta Safe across the country. Major General Musa Damadani, the Director of Defense Media Operations, told the media at the Defense Headquarters that the troops in the process also recovered several items, including 36 AK-47 rifles, AK-47 magazines, other sophisticated weapons, foodstuffs, motorcycles, explosives, and rustled cattle from the terrorists. He also revealed that the military recovered stolen crude oil and automotive gas oil, also known as AGO, worth 259 million naira from the hands of illegal bunkers in the Niger Delta. Civil society organizations under the banner of the Gender Strategy Advancement International have urged the incoming administration of the president-elect to be more gender balanced in appointments in his cabinet and offices. They insist that women have been almost disenfranchised from the electoral and governance process following the drastic reduction in the number of women who won elections into various positions in the 2023 general elections. The convener of the coalition and executive director of Gender Strategy Advancement International, Adora Oinchiri, who addressed a World Press Conference in Abuja, also says women in positions of authority will help break the structural barriers against women like discriminatory laws, gender stereotypes, and violence against women in politics. Families must be empowered through strategic nutrition education interventions to sustain West Africa's over 400 million youth population to achieve optimal learning outcomes in today's fiercely competitive knowledge economy. These were the words of Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, represented by the Minister of Health, Dr. Sagi Ohanire, at the opening ceremony of the 17th ECOWAS Nutrition Forum, holding in Abuja. The 3-day program is a collaboration between Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Health and the West African Health Organization, with the theme focused on accelerating universal access to nutritious, safe, affordable, and sustainable diets. Plastic has been identified as one of the major challenges facing human existence on the planet, entering the food chain and increasing the risks of cancer and developmental disorders. To tackle this problem, the United Nations Development Fund, under the Global Environmental Facility Small Grants Program through Pearl's Learning Hub, is deploying the power of 400 IT-engaged youths in effective plastic use and waste management in a 4-phase, 7-month, 400 million naira project. The Chief Executive Officer of Pearl's Learning Hub states that the winning team on the project will be given 1 million naira and is looking forward to reducing plastic waste in Abuja by 50%.
Welcome back. We went to the site where the fence collapsed in Wuse 2 and took 2 lives and injured 4 other people. While investigations into this incident are ongoing, we go back to 2022. 17 building collapses in Abuja alone. Following these building collapses, the Federal Capital Territory Administration commenced what it described as integrity tests of buildings in areas notorious for these collapses, especially around the Gwarimpa axis and the 3-story building which collapsed along the Hamza Abdullahi Way in Kubwa. According to reports, the building owner for the Kubwa incident allegedly converted the building from a shopping mall to a residential apartment, adding at least 2 more floors to an already existing structure. What is the outcome of these integrity tests? And how do things stand right now? Please watch this. Following a distress call made in the early hours of the day, operatives from the National Emergency Management Agency, the Fire Service, and the Federal Capital Territory Administration are here on a rescue mission following the collapse of a part of a building on Adetokunbo Ademola Crescent in Wuse 2 area of the nation's capital. The FCT Emergency Management Agency reports that 2 people were killed because of the collapsed fence. 4 persons were rescued alive and are receiving treatment.
The 2 people that was badly affected, that was when they were brought out when the excavator actually came and was excavating the ground, because the fence actually fell on them. Those ones that survived, the fence did not cut up with them. They were under the ground.
The incident occurred during an excavation that should have been carried out with an excavator and not using manual labor, as the site engineers did in this case. The authorities explained how previous efforts to stop work on the site proved abortive.
It's really unfortunate that we had this incident, but the authority concerned, that is in this context the Department of Development Control, has done all that is within its power by even stopping the work here. But then the developer, maybe using his engineer, didn't heed the warning, and then this incident happened. Because my colleagues here, who is responsible for monitoring development on the site, actually confirmed to me that they had directed the work to be stopped until necessary things are done. Because when you are doing this kind of activity, you need to shore it up, retain the wall so that there will be no collapse. And that's what exactly happened. So we asked him to stop. He didn't. In fact, we didn't know that the work had resumed until when this thing happened this morning.
While the relevant agencies have concluded rescue operations, the National Emergency Management Agency plans to investigate the factors responsible for the incident. Earlier in the year, the Gwarimpa axis was the scene to this gruesome building collapse. Heavy machinery lifting through the rubble, searching for survivors trapped under this building site that caved in the early hours of that morning. The 3-story building with a basement collapsed, trapping an unidentified number of persons. The combined efforts of rescue authorities claim 19 persons have been evacuated so far, with 1 fatally injured. Investigations were promised to ascertain the cause of the collapse to forestall a recurrence in the future. In the Kubwa axis in August of 2022, the mood was sober and subdued as emergency officials carried out rescue operations to rescue 2 workers who were trapped in this building collapse.
This place, the initial plan is plaza, open plaza, that you just have decking, just only decking, and the inside is open. So at the time, they have already stand the building. So at the time, I noticed that extra work was going on, the kind of block they were bringing. So I went there to take a look by myself one day, and I saw that they started converting the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor as a residential area. They started turning it to 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartment. So I came out, I called my neighbor, I told my neighbor that this building near us may collapse one day because the kind of work that is going on there is not the initial plan. And this place is a swamping area. I've lived here for like 15 years and it's a swamping area. So when the thing happened yesterday around 11:25 p.m., when I came out, I wasn't surprised.
Around 11:30, with the building collapsed. We are inside at that time. We are inside the room asleep. We don't lie down, we're ready to sleep. When the building collapsed, we are 7 numbers in the compound. We are 5 numbers asleep inside the building will collapse. So that's around 11 o'clock when the thing happened. So me and this boy, this is my brother. So we came outside and that night, the people are already there already. They begin to pick us one by one. So later on, they say they won't carry us go hospital. Some people say no, make police. They are aware. So police came around 12, around after 12. That time, police came around after 12. So police as they came, then carry us go to General Hospital for Kubwa.
Despite the rain, emergency officials continued the rescue effort as 2 people were still trapped in the rubble. Eventually, they removed one person amid tears as he's confirmed dead. Later in the day, the last trapped person was removed and he too was confirmed dead. The FCT administration suspects that the materials used for the building could be responsible and threatens to revoke the approval for the land.
As you know, the FCT, we have a policy that once a building collapses, that particular land is revoked. That's a very strong point. Once a building collapses in the FCT, the land automatically stands revoked. That's one thing that I know for sure that the FCT minister would likely implement in this particular very sad incident.
The FCT Minister of State arrives at the scene of the incident. After inspecting the rubble, she announces the next line of action by the FCT administration.
FCT will actually be all out here to conduct integrity tests once again, and we urge you all to please cooperate with them. A committee will be put in place led by the Development Control and all agencies to ensure that due diligence is done to this case and so many other cases. The committee will look into if the building itself was even approved in the first place and at what level was it purchased. Did it pass the integrity test? All this will get back to you after the committee's work.
Officials of the National Emergency Management Agency say the 3 injured persons are receiving treatment at the Kubwa General Hospital and are in stable condition. The nation's capital has a building code, one that all builders are under strict instructions to adhere to, whether public, commercial, individual residential houses, or mass housing projects. Nigeria's building code, created in 2006, was last reviewed in 2017 and stipulates in Section 13, subsection 3, any act that is performed, caused or permitted by any person, firm or corporation that is in conflict with or not in compliance with any of the provisions of this code shall be a violation. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm or corporation to erect, construct, alter, extend, repair, remove, demolish, use, or occupy any building or structure violating the provisions of this code. Any person who shall violate a provision of this code or shall fail to comply with any of the requirements thereof, or who shall erect, construct, alter, or repair a building or structure in violation of an approved plan or directive of the Code Enforcement Division, section or unit, or of a permit or certified issue under the provision of this code, shall be guilty of an offence punishable under the existing law. This section of the building code has been criticized in many quarters for not being tough enough on defaulters. In the FCT, punitive measures for the non-adherence to this code are more stringent, as every time a building collapses, the land allocation is automatically revoked. We hear from the FCT authorities that this is going to be the case in this unfortunate fence collapse in the Wuse 2 axis. My guest on the program is Mr. Abbas Idris, the Director General of the FCT Emergency Management Agency. What sanctions are in place for engineers who commit these crimes? And how effective are they, seeing most of these culprits are not registered engineers? Does Nigeria have a building code to begin with? And how can they leverage on proper coordination between stakeholders to ensure compliance with standards in Nigeria's construction industry? What laws exist in the FCT to check these building collapses? Please watch this. Mr. Abbas Idris, welcome again to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you for having me.
Just so people can understand, whenever there's an emergency in the FCT, we would have to get you in here to explain what's happened.
Thank you for the confidence.
And this time, we're looking at a situation that in many ways could have been avoided.
Yeah.
This fence that collapsed in Wuse 2 that cost the lives of 2 people and 4 people are still in hospital, still injured. Talk to us a bit about this particular, it's in Wuse 2, so that's the city center.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit about what happened. Why did this fence collapse? Was it a construction site? What happened, really?
Yeah, first and foremost, let me commiserate with the families of those who lost their lives and those who have injured. And I'm happy to report that all the 4 that were taken to the hospital have been discharged. And so we thank God for that. And secondly, really, the site was a construction site. It is a site that is being excavated at the foundation level. And so they're supposed to at least consider the neighborhood fence around as they are excavating. But they eat deep into the neighborhood fence. And so as they are digging, they now the fence collapsed on those people who were digging. First and foremost, they are not even supposed to use those kind of labor in that kind of construction. They're supposed to have an excavator that can do that excavation. But because of our selfish attitude, you find out that because you want to cut corners, you charge so much probably to the owner of the building, and then you now go and find a cheap labor to get those boys along the line.
Is that what has happened here?
That was
something that should have been an excavator.
Exactly.
They got manual labor.
Exactly.
And now 2 people are dead.
If you look at the kind of construction that is coming up there, it's not supposed to use digger and shovel for that kind of construction.
Last year, after the building collapse in Kubwa, your office started doing something called integrity tests on buildings.
Yes.
Let's talk a bit about these integrity tests.
Yeah.
What's the outcome of those tests?
It is the responsibility of the Department of Development Control to carry out integrity tests on every building, especially when you have a building that collapses around that area. So all those buildings are susceptible to collapse as well. They got a lot of buildings that have not been, they don't have integrity at that time, and they mark them, and they ask the people to really live.
And what neighborhoods are we talking about here?
Mostly around Gorimpa. You know, most of the buildings collapse that we were having comes from in Gorimpa because of the complicity in the approvals. Gorimpa is being handled by the FHA. So the standard is not like the standard that we are having in the other parts of the FCT.
I want you to come to that actually.
Yeah.
Let's understand what that means.
Yeah.
So the Federal Housing Authority has a standard for how the buildings should be done.
Exactly.
But the FCT administration has a different
standard. The building code.
Code.
But now it has been harmonized.
So it's been harmonized now.
Because of this incessant incident that we were having.
So with the harmonization of the FHA and the FCDA code, the building code for the FCT, what does that mean for buildings that were approved by the FHA that may not meet up to the standards of the FCDA? Now
that is where the integrity test comes up, and so the FCDA, the Development Control, is now carrying out the integrity test on all the buildings around the Gorimpa area, so that they will be able to come up with a report to show those buildings that are not supposed to be standing at this moment. And if there is anything that they can be done to restructure it, then they have to advise the owners to do that with immediate effect.
Let's talk about punitive measures now. I know that there's a law in the FCT. You might have to clarify.
Existing.
Oh, you know the law I'm talking about? Yes. So there's a law in the FCT that says if your building collapses, they revoke the land ownership.
Automatically, the land has been revoked.
Is that what's happening in this case?
Yes, once your building collapses.
With this fence collapsing, you've revoked the ownership of that land?
Yes, definitely, because you have compromised and then you violated the laws of land. So those engineers, those architects, those professionals working at the site, they're supposed to be arrested.
But they haven't been.
Did we see them? They ran away. They were not even there. But they will get them because the development control have their own records. So therefore, they have to bring them.
So you're going to arrest
what we
them.
are saying is relevant SDA should sue them and claim for those lives.
Rains are here now. Are we going to see a repeat of what we saw last year? 17 collapsed buildings in the FCT. Is that something that we're going to see a repeat of this year?
No.
So what's been done differently between last year and this year to ensure we don't have
many things have been done. At least the people are going there to get approvals. The development control are also putting their people to ensure that they supervise the building accordingly. There are a lot of improvements. The engineers, different engineers, cite and also sign and endorse any approval from electrical to structural and otherwise, even the fire service. So a lot of improvement have been done.
Before we let you go, when the rains come, one thing I noticed a lot in the FCT, the floor, the buildings that are on the ground, right, the ground floor buildings, you start to see swellings in the walls and things I see that a lot.
These are FCT. These are part of the infraction.
It's an infraction?
Yes.
It's not natural?
No, it's not natural. At the construction point. That means either they didn't do a real DPC or they cut corners as well as they are doing it. So if you don't have, definitely you'll have moistures and all those things around your buildings.
So if someone lives in a house that's like that, what is supposed to do?
The best thing is to leave that house because it's going to, if you are allergic to certain things, you will be sneezing and a lot of things.
If they reported to the FCT authorities, is there action that can be taken?
Definitely there will, because that means that there is a violation of the building codes. They didn't do the right thing.
I do have to say that a lot of people that we've spoken to recently have talked about the response time from your office. They say it's really quick. But just so people who are not aware of how to reach you, how to reach your office, how can they reach the FCT Emergency Management Agency?
112.
112.
Toll-free emergency number 24/7. 112. Dial it. Nobody will ask you cover and you get response quickly. 112. Don't call any number. 112. Whether you have credit or you don't have credit, whether you have SIM card on your phone or you don't have SIM card, just dial 112. When you switch off, if you don't have service, you will see emergency call only. Just dial 112. Call us. We'll be there for you.
That's what we have to wrap it up today on Dateline Abuja. But I want to thank you very much, Abbas Idris, for being here with us today. And good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm grateful.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. There is a policy in the Federal Capital Territory Administration that when a building collapses, the land is forfeited and revoked, and the place is converted into a park or a garden for residents around the neighborhood. This is good. However, these people who endanger the lives of others for selfish interests must be seen to face the full wrath of the law. It is a shame that one could be so callous with the lives of others. They must be punished. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.